Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Saints Row Gat Out of Hell. We're continuing the Saints Rowness of the summer. I played it on the Xbox One. It's also available on the 360, PS3, PC, I think Nintendo Switch, and PS4. So the story starts out with the remaining Saints still on their spaceship, and they're throwing a birthday party for Kinsey, which leads to them playing with a Ouija board, which leads to the boss being abducted by Satan. Why? Because Satan wants his daughter Jezebel to marry the boss. But the Saints aren't just going to let something like that happen, so Johnny Gat decides he's going to go down to hell and rescue the boss, and well, Kinsey decides to tag along. And fortunately for Johnny and Kinsey, they meet Dane Vogel. If you don't remember him, he's from a previous Saints game, and they get to meet up with a bunch of other people who decide to help them out, like Blackbeard and William Shakespeare. The story 100% lives up to like traditional Saints Row humor. It's just kind of wacky and over the top, and I love it, quite frankly. I will say this was more of an expansion pack, like a standalone kind, so the game is a little short and the story is a little sparse, but it's not bad. It's actually great where it is. Next up, the audio. I'm going to jump into my complaints with the audio right away, which is that there are no radio stations in Hell. Maybe that's a joke, but I think it's because this was like a spin-off that it wasn't really able to get all the same music. So that is a little disappointing that you can't listen to music by all sorts of different artists while you're running around in Hell. There is music in the game, and it works well in the situations, but there's just not enough music because there's not, musical artists performing for a traditional soundtrack. That being said, the voiceover work was once again really good, and it's kind of over the top and just fits with everything that goes on in the game, and this game is ridiculous. It includes a musical sung by Johnny, Kinsey, Satan, and Jezebel. As for the sound effects, those work very well. I really think that they did a good job making it seem like it's now taking place in Hell instead of in a normal place. Not that Steelport or Stillwater were ever normal places. As for the gameplay, it follows a pretty traditional open world action-adventure style, go find missions, except for the problem that there isn't a traditional mission structure to this game. Your basic goal is to go around and perform what were basically side missions and diversions and whatnot in order to piss off Satan to progress the story. Like I said, this is much shorter than the previous games because it's not really a full game. It's a side story, it's a expansion pack, a standalone one at that. That being said, you get ridiculous weapons to go along with the Hell theme. There are the 7 deadly sin weapons. There are all sorts of weird missions and powers to go along with it. You actually get Satan's halo, and that grants Johnny and Kinsey the ability to basically have superpowers, but better than the superpowers in Saints Row 4 because they can properly fly. Which I will say, it worked well. The steering is good for that, but for some reason, whenever I was flying, my character pulled to the right. No, it's not a problem with my controller, because when I was running or doing anything in any other games where I was supposed to just be going straight, my character would go straight. So that was a weird little thing. It didn't really cause any major issues though, so that's not a big deal, and honestly, flying around Hell is quite fun. But you have all the side missions that you've seen before and some new ones, and I really like them, and I had a lot of fun with this game. I will say, however, a couple more issues that I did have was there were times where I would get knocked into an area, like up against a wall or into some kind of like corner, and I just wouldn't be able to get out. I'd be stuck. So I would have to go out to the main menu and then come back into the game. It was a bit of a pain in the ass. And the next complaint is a slightly more major complaint, and that is I was trying to complete a objective and the game crashed like 3 or 4 times. And I mean fully crashed. Had to go out to my homepage and then reload the game. It sucked, honestly. As for the controls work well. I like the controls. I'm not necessarily fully in love with how they're all mapped. The super speed I wish was more of a click on a stick rather than holding down the right bumper, but it doesn't get that bad. So I don't have a major complaint with it. It's just kind of a minor annoyance. There's also a bit of a lock-on in this game, which really wasn't present in the previous games, which is interesting, and I wouldn't say it makes anything more difficult, but I don't necessarily love it because I just wasn't used to it in this game. That being said, the aiming, the moving, the jumping, the shooting, all of it is very responsive, all of it works well. I don't have any major complaints with the controls. Lastly, the graphics, I'm going to say in one of the cutscenes with the boss, the facial animations are completely fucked and it's a little distracting at that point. But the rest of the time, I really love the art design in the game. I love the way they made Satan look, Jezebel. I just love the way they did everything. I love the demons. I love the design of hell. I think it's a really cool design of hell because it feels a little bit like a normal city, basically, but it's hell. And because it's hell, obviously the colors aren't going to necessarily be overly bright and colorful, but they do a better job of it than I felt like they did in the previous game, and I like the way it looks. Once again, it's also not hyper-realistic because it's not meant to be. It's always been a much more cartoony look, and I think it works very well with what they're doing, especially in Gat Out of Hell. So to wrap this up, I would recommend this game to anyone. Obviously, if you are a fan of Saints Row, then you're gonna play this anyways. But if you've never really played Saints Row, this is a great game. It's a great addition. I wouldn't start with it because you're gonna miss a bunch of ridiculous stuff and you're gonna be wondering about a few things. But I do recommend it. My annoyances and complaints aside, I still had a really good time playing this game, and you can get it for pretty cheap. You can get it bundled with Saints Row 4. So yeah, go get it, have fun. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me if you enjoy the summer drought, because not unlike myself, it maybe gives you a chance to go back and play some games you've been wanting to play for a while or haven't played in a while, or even games you missed. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.